Hey ghouls, Koizi here, and this is the first top best and worst video on my channel. For this occasion, I'm using this opportunity to honor the 15th anniversary of a cult favorite franchise, Monster High. When this franchise first launched, I just saw it as Halloween Barbies. Literally. Like, that's what they were to me at first. But throughout the second half of the 2010s, I slowly got into Monster High and became a casual fan. So, last year for Halloween, I did a whole marathon of just its feature films for what was originally an installment of Ranked, but there's only 12 movies of Monster High, plus 5 TV specials. Ladies, gentlemen, and the other genders that the orange juice refuses to acknowledge, these are the top 6 best and worst Monster High movies.
Deception, disgrace, evil is plain as the scar on his face. That girl is pretty kinky. Girls are super freak.
To start off the worst list, just because this movie is on it, that doesn't mean it's bad. Freaky Fusion is actually pretty good. It takes advantage of its cool concept of mixing some Monster High ghouls together. It does so while packaged with colorful fusion design, an interesting time travel story and some touching themes of family. The hybrids had a great introduction here with unique personalities and a nice jab at The Little Mermaid. Plus, the climax is pretty dark for a Monster High movie. However, the reason that Freaky Fusion is starting the worst list is pretty simple. There's 6 Monster High movies that just did better, but this is still good on its own.
What happens when Lisa runs for student body president?
Now we get into the weaker films. When this came out, I used to love it, and I mean love it. I thought this was better than the Gen 1 movies at the time. Nowadays, there are some things I still like about Welcome to Monster High, such as the political subplot about a student body election, the new animation being well crafted for the second generation, and the timeless voice acting sticking around. But, after my rewatch last year, I do not love this origin story as much as I used to. The problem with Welcome to Monster High is that most of the story is no longer interesting. After the school itself gets built, the main story just drags on and on with the same themes as the first act, which is missing the point of building the Monster High School in the first place. I wouldn't call this a bad film like other MH fans, but this is not a great start to Generation 2.
In French, when you want to say yes, you say oui oui.
You gotta be kidding me! Oh my god! That is hysterical!
Ooh boy, here comes the generic field trip movies. Seriously, these types of movies are so unnecessary for this franchise in terms of their script. Sure, they are good for the merchandise, as Monster High started out as fashion dolls. But do we really need a select few students to go out on a predictable adventure with pointless filler and a twist villain to face off? This movie is not total garbage, since it does have its moments, and Jennifer was great. But that twist villain no. Madame Gastide is probably the worst and laziest driven twist villain I have ever seen in an animated film yet. There is literally nothing to her that adds to this field trip story whatsoever besides the predictable nature. This villain is so weak to the point of ruining and hindering an entire, could have been decent, Monster High movie. Out of all the mixed bags that Monster High has in its film series, Fright's camera action is the most painfully average. The story is painfully average. The character writing is painfully average. The themes are painfully average. Even the animation is painfully average at times. The music in this film is the most forgettable music you can find in this franchise. But that is not why this movie is the number 3 worst. The real reason why this is the weakest mid-tier film in the franchise is the vibes that it gives off. Fright's camera action feels way too preschoolish. In order to explain this, during the very beginning of this current YouTube channel, I made a raunchy edit of Why Do Ghouls Fall in Love, and when I uploaded it to YouTube, it got a massive copyright claim from the likes of Hit Entertainment. You know, the same company that makes Barney the Frickin' Dinosaur, Thomas the Frickin' Tank Engine and Bob the Frickin' Builder. I know that those 3 properties are Mattel brands, but Monster High is nowhere near the same boat, as those baby shows, but I feel like the prominent introduction of shitted voodoo makes this installment of the film series feel exactly like those baby shows.
But put down the stapler or I will electrocute you!
I talked about a lot of mid-tier films in Monster High, but now we are getting into a pair of actually bad Monster High movies. This is the only other film in the second generation, and you can tell why Electrified was the last one. Electrified is boring as fish. This movie is so boring that it makes the entire franchise look bad. All this movie is about is making outfits that light up. There is no real story to carry this bland nothing of a concept at all. Everything that's going on is way too uninteresting, and the animation got a downgrade from the origin story. I couldn't give a single crap about anything in this film. And the number one worst Monster High movie is...
Can you imagine the smell? Raw fish. Oh my.
It is one thing to be boring and uninteresting, but it is worse to copy another franchise that's also fashion dolls. Great Scarier Reef is just Monster High trying to be Barbie by ripping off the mermaid movies that Barbie had earlier in the 2010s. This hopeless concept of turning the Monster High characters into mermaids is so unoriginal that it goes against everything that Monster High stands for. The thing that Monster High stands for is being itself, being unique, and being a monster. So what made Mattel think that copying Barbie with a mermaid movie was a good way of showing that? 'Cause let me tell you, it was not. The story was painfully messy, the mermaid design was lazy, the characters got a massive downgrade, the message was convoluted, and the music was downright terrible. Great Scarier Reef is literally the Monster High equivalent of Saving Bikini Bottom the Sandy Cheeks movie, and obviously, Laguna Blue deserved a better movie in future generations, but that's why Great Scarier Reef is the number one worst Monster High movie ever made.
Thank God for the honorable mention!
For the honorable mentions, I did say there are 5 TV specials. Let's have them as the honorable mentions by ranking those in a much quicker top 5. Number 5, Friday Night Frights, the heart was in the right place, but it's just a generic sports story. Number 4, Why Do Ghouls Fall in Love? A decent Valentine's special that introduced an underrated Monster High ghoul. Number 3, New Ghoul at School, not the best introduction, but it's nice enough of a start to these TV specials. Number 2, Escape from Skull Shores, a much better Spring Breakers than the actual Spring Breakers. Number 1, Fright On, the best TV special in the franchise for its strong themes of division and racism. Now let's move on to the best list, shall we?
I would kill for a big New York slice of pizza right now.
Okay, this is the only good field trip Monster High movie. That is because of the songs. This movie is an underrated musical. The songs here are as memorable and catchy as those from animated musicals released in theaters. They are a great mix of classic Broadway and early 2010s pop with numbers like Love Is Like a Storm, Boo York, Empire, this movie's version of Steal the Show, and a breakup song that sounds identical to the works of Akon and Nelly Furtado. These musical numbers are also well choreographed, and that makes these songs good enough for the movie to be a lot of fun. The film also has a deep, interesting character arc for Caddy Noir, the franchise's equivalent to Hannah Montana. To make things better after the credits, Astronova gets a phone call that hints at the very crossover that Monster High should have gotten with Fairy Tale.
Alright, next, High School Musical.
Hold up, MH fans, put your pitchforks down, and let me explain why this is on the best list. Monster High the movie starts another generation for this franchise, and honestly, Gen 3 had a better start than Gen 2. Unlike Welcome to Monster High the origin story, this origin story goes with a similar premise to New Ghoul at School, but with better writing and well-crafted messaging. As reimaginings of the ghouls and monsters we all know and love, the characters are well executed with charming personalities in their own right. Most of them keep their memorable traits from previous generations like Frankie, Deuce, Heath, Julia, and Clea, while others have changes that were best suited for their redesign like Claudine and Draculaura. This live-action Monster High movie has a better twist villain than frickin' William Afton from 2023's Five Nights at Freddy's. Talk about ouch. Oh, and I almost forgot, this movie is another musical, and the songs here are even better than those of Boo York Boo York. That musical aspect, and the switch from animation to live action makes Monster High the movie, the Nickelodeon movie that Disney Channel's descendants should have been. Okay, we have 3 more Gen 1 movies left, and this one is all about Halloween. But, when I first watched this in my teen years, I hated it as much as those Hotel Transylvania movies. Well, that was for no reason, because after my rewatch last year, this movie rules as much as the ghouls themselves. The story of the Monster High students discovering Halloween turned out to be interesting, clever, and really deep. These characters learn about both sides of their own history with humans and try to make ends meet with them in a way that is surprisingly thought-provoking. The climax is even intense and mature for a movie that's supposed to sell fashion dolls. Honestly, this movie was the Halloween special that Monster High deserves. Now when is the Christmas special gonna happen, Mattel? 'Cause we all need it.
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck.
Similar to Ghouls Rule, when I first watched this in my teen years, I hated it. That was also for no reason, because 13 wishes cooked. This film is a unique take on the Aladdin story, focusing on Claudine's sister and her self-discovery in high school. Once Halloween makes her wishes to the daughter of the genie, the stakes become very high, unexpected things happen to keep the movie engaging, and the adventure inside the lamp becomes action-packed. The 3 characters introduced here provide solid personalities, well-crafted voice acting, and some juicy lore about the lamp. Speaking of lore, this movie is another one with ties to Ever After High, the spin-off that Monster High could have crossed over with in the cancelled fairy tale. This is one of the better Aladdin retellings after the 1992 classic. Wish Dragon in 2019 remake, take notes. Out of all the Monster High films, this is the best film from Gen 1. This is why. The story revolves around Spectra Wunderghost getting cancelled for her gossip fiasco, and so she turns back to her previous high school, only to be captured by its principal. So the other ghouls have to research the haunted school and solve that principal's thing for putting students in chains and calling it detention. They visit this school through a portal on a ghostly pirate ship. This movie gets dark, mature, interesting, and even heartbreaking at times. The villain of this movie has one of the greatest twists I have ever seen in an animated film yet, just for the disturbing lore and backstory behind her. Now that is a better twist villain than bland Madame Gostine from Scarier City of Frights. This film gives me the vibes that I need for a supernatural teen movie in the 2010s. And the #1 best Monster High movie is Unlike other films in this franchise, Monster High 2 is a literal sequel that picks up where its predecessor left off. This time, we see the ghouls discover a historical war between vampires and witches. This discovery takes half of them, and the 2 monsters into the human world, where Dracula goes into a witch club. Meanwhile, in the monster realm, Clea tries to run for student body president against Tora Lifestripe. This political subplot is much better than that of Welcome to Monster High the origin story. The main story gets as dark and mature as 2015's Haunted as it progresses, of course. The musical numbers in this sequel are Monster High music at its greatest, with songs that are a bit more than just good bops. If this is going to be the last feature film that Monster High gets for a while, then it temporarily ends Monster High movies with a bang, and that's why Monster High 2 is the #1 best Monster High movie so far. And that's all I got for the top 6 best and worst Monster High movies. The marathon I did for this video formed new opinions on some of these films and, unfortunately, left the old opinions to rot. It's kind of spiritual in a way, just to reconnect myself to the world, where freaky gets fabulous. But, I am not done with Monster High's 15th anniversary yet, since my next animated movie pitch is also Monster High related, so stay tuned for Halloween when that releases. Thanks for watching this Monster Mashed countdown, and I hope you enjoyed it. Why not also like, comment, share and subscribe here, and click on my link tree in the description to find my other platforms, especially the new Blue Sky, Corny and Red Note. Also on that link tree is my Patreon, where you can make a pledge and achieve some rewards like an early viewing of my future videos, some requested artwork, and a shout out in one of those future videos. Once I get enough support on Patreon, I'll be able to afford a comeback of Koi reviews and my first animated series Game Schooled. This is Koi signing out.